We should wish a happy anniversary to Game 7, 2013, Boston Bruins, Toronto Maple Leafs,
No, we
4-1
shouldn't.
collapse. The anniversary was yesterday. It was the 7-year anniversary of the Leafs 4-1 collapse versus the Boston Bruins in Game 7 of the 2013 playoffs. Nazem Kadri scored with 14:31 left in the third period to put the Leafs up 4-1 in the game on their way to hopefully the second round of the playoffs. They were in the playoffs for the first time since
2004.
2004,
It was
which
the
is
first time in
crazy.
9 years.
They were in the playoffs, and they went down 3-1 in the series. They came all the way back with back-to-back 2-1 victories in game 5 and 6. Pushed to game 7. They go up 4-1 in game 7. 14 minutes left. Nazem Kadri puts it up 4-1. And then we all know what happens next.
No, we don't.
Nathan Horton scores. Milan Lucic scores.
Leaf legend.
Patrice Bergeron scores with 51 seconds left in the third period to tie it up.
The Leafs were so finished. Like, what's amazing watching the footage back is how close the Bruins came to just finishing them in regulation.
Yeah, it was tilted. Like, I don't know what happened those last 10 minutes, but
they shut it off.
It wasn't a game anymore.
No.
Now, Steve. And then, obviously, we got to finish off. Patrice Bergeron scored in overtime to win it, beating James Reimer with an assist from Sagan and Marchand, winning 4-1 at 6:05 in OT.
Where is he? There he is. There's Patrice right there.
So,
me and Patrice.
Let's reminisce a little. Where were you? Do you remember the moments leading up that playoff series? Tell us about your time in 2013, Stephen Dangle.
I do. I remember it. I was working at CBC doing highlights, and I just straight up refused to work that night. I'm like, nope, I get that night off. I am going to watch this game at Maple Leaf Square. And I went down with my girlfriend at the time, who is now my wife. And
Mrs. Dangle.
Mrs. Dangle. And I had my dirty neck beard. My channel was sort of taken off. That was a fun time because my channel had taken a dip, and then there was the lockout, and then I came back full of piss and vinegar, and everyone's like, yeah, we want to watch stuff, and it was cool. Watched the game with a bunch of people, had a great rowdy time. And I remember the Leafs go up 4-1. There were so many little parts of that game, too. In the 2018 Game 7, Patrick Marleau had 2 goals. And imagine how different we'd be talking about Patrick Marleau if the Leafs win that game. In 2013, Cody Franzen had 2 goals.
Yep.
He basically put one in his own net. Matt Bartkowski got the goal. Bruins are up 1-0. And then Franzen got the next 2. And the Leafs went into the third period with a 2-1 lead because of Cody Franzen's pair of goals. An article went up this week, Cody Franzen and his regret over not signing a certain contract with the Leafs. Fans in this city would have screamed bloody murder if Franzen didn't get his money, because he would have been a hero. He would have been a hero, not on the level of you scored a Stanley Cup winning goal, but he was the Leafs' best player, or one of the best players in a game. Game 7 comeback. How many times have the Leafs come back from a 3-1 series deficit in franchise history? Not many. There was the one where they came back from 3-0. So it's amazing how much changes. I was in Maple Leaf Square. They had the big crane camera come down and see all the people. And if you go back and watch a record of the game, you see all these fans jumping up and going crazy. And just to screw with them, and they did a bunch of different takes of it. And I think part of the reason they did is because I kept screwing it up. Because while fans are jumping up and down and having a great time, I just did this. I stood completely still, just staring right at the camera. And I'm right in the middle of the shot too. And so I even had a bunch of tweets. My phone died before the Leafs blew it, which thank God.
Oh, yeah.
Thank God. That's why my timeline's a little quiet that night. Thank God. But I got a bunch of tweets before it died of people going, "Is that you staring into the camera in Maple Leaf Square?" And I remember clear as day, Leafs go up 4-1. We lose our minds.
We thought it was over.
We thought it was over. and so did the people behind me, because they start nah 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 nah, and I remember just panic turning around, screaming, not even caring who it was, going, "Shut the f up!" Because you knew, like, it's Leafs Nation. Like, we just knew too many things could go wrong. There's way too much time left in this game, and if you go back and watch, there's this horrifying shot of the Bruins bench, and they look so dejected, and it gets to Jaromir Jagr, and he just pouts and shakes his head. He's
You
like,
forget Yager was on that team.
he was on that team, and who else was on that team?
I
Wade
have it.
Redden.
I have it up here.
Wade Redden was a Bruin back then. But Yager just goes, nope. And he's just like, we got these guys. And there's a guy who's been around for so long, he's seen so much, even back then, and he was just like, no, we shouldn't be losing these guys. These guys suck. And if you watch the whole game, they did. They were awful. You watch the game and wonder how they made the playoffs.
Yep.
And Bruins score again. And moments earlier, I was thinking, you know what? Penguins probably make it to the Eastern Conference Final. Leafs are going to have to play the Bruins in round 2. Leafs, I think, had a winning record against the Bruins that year. The Leafs, to this day, are Henrik Lundqvist's boogeyman. It makes no sense. He gets shelled every time he plays them. And I'm like, you know what? They can make it to the Eastern Conference Final. And even though the Leafs didn't beat the Penguins, I don't think, that season, they played them really well. And I was like, you know what? They have a real shot at going to the Stanley Cup Final.
Did you mean the Rangers in round 2? You said
no, sorry. I thought they would have beaten the Rangers in round 2.
Okay,
and I thought
you said
they had
the Bruins, so just correct.
Oh, my bad. Sorry.
Yeah.
I thought the Leafs would have had a chance of beating the Rangers in round 2.
Okay.
And I thought they had at least a fighting chance against the Penguins.
All right.
In round 3. And then I remember watching that series where the Penguins got swept by the Bruins. I want to say the Penguins scored like 4 goals in 4 games. And I remember just watching the Bruins tear meat off of the bone, rip the Penguins limb from limb, and just going, the Leafs push these guys to 7? Anyway, so I'm going back and forth. When Bergeron tied the game, I hit the deck. I, like a lot of Leaf fans,
like at Maple Leaf Square?
Yeah, so you might even be able to see me in the shot, because so many people put their hands up. I immediately fell to my knees because I'm like, in that moment they lost. And the mood in Maple Leaf Square was, that's it. And, you know, the game wasn't over. They could have easily came back and win it. Joffrey Lupul actually had a pretty good chance to win it in overtime. But we just knew. And then when it happened, I literally just turned from the TV, turned around, looked down at my wife, and she just like, it was her first Leafs heartbreak. Like, she had never really cared, and then she finally cared. And that was her first introduction to Leafs heartbreak. And we just, we didn't stick around for the news cameras like some of those people who were like, we were so close! We just walked and had the quietest subway ride I've ever taken.
Wow.
And I hate that video that I did the next morning, because I shouldn't have done it the next morning, but I lived with my parents still at the time. And I just don't feel like I did it justice. And you see the difference with what is now my second most viewed video, which is Game 7 from this year, where it's an added 6 years of torture. The Leafs are like the Chicago Blackhawks of losing Game 7 to the Bruins. 3 in 6 years, baby. Woo! and I just completely lost my mind.
Yeah.
But in 2013, it was just genuine heartbreak, and just knowing, oh my God, we're never going to live this down. And now it's 7 years later.
I feel like there was some consolation for the fact that they shouldn't have been there. No. The only reason the Leafs were even in the playoffs was because they got a heater to start the shortened season. Even at the end of the season, I had the end of it, they lost they lost 4 of their last 6 games. Like, this wasn't a very good team, but they snuck into the 5th seed because it was technically the middle of the season. It was 48 games in, and they cut it off, and they had to start the playoffs because of the shortened season. So if that's an 82-game regular season, this team, that's like an 8 seed, maybe a 10 seed. They missed the playoffs. Who knows? But they were playing above their heads, and it was unbelievable that they even squeaked out those 2 wins in 5 and 6 just to push it to Game 7. And
Reimer
but
was so good.
yeah,
Oh
because
my God.
Reimer stole those games, and you'd think
Reimer stole that season. He
Yeah.
stole that playoff spot.
yeah.
Sorry. Go ahead.
And no, you'd think that it eased a little bit of the pain, but once you
No.
go up 4-1 with 10 minutes is left, and you still have a 4-1 lead, and then you blow it, that doesn't help. Doesn't help the fact that you should have never been there. You close that out because that's what you should do.
Well, in the Bruins, Jack Edwards with the dagger at their throats, they pull it out and slay the beast, and I'm like, the beast?
Right.
The 2013 Leafs. That's embarrassing. But I mean, the way they lost was even more embarrassing. That was the thing. There was nothing to say. And at the time, I did take consolation in, wow, they did push them to 7.
Mm-hmm.
I guess in that, they proved that they're better than I thought they were. And then management said, yeah, you're right. And they doubled down on everything, and they plunged the team into maybe the second darkest period of their history, and had to completely burn it to ash and rebuild. And now here we are today.
They doubled down on a bad team that was playing above their heads.
Yeah.
And it led to 4 years of just terrible hockey.
They bought out Mikhail Grabovski immediately, which made no sense. Komarov left because he didn't play for the final 17 minutes of the game. Clark MacArthur walked. Nikolai Kulemin walked. They got David Clarkson in free agency. And rather than go with what was a pretty solid tandem in Reimer and Scrivens, they paid a decent chunk for Jonathan Bernier, who was actually really good in 2013-14, and then just never quite recaptured that magic as the team got shittier around him.
Yeah.
Where were you?
I was at Ryerson at the time, and that night I was at school. So I missed I missed the entire second commuting home from Ryerson. So
when did your class end?
So the game must have started at what, 7 or 8?
7.
7. So the class must have ended at 6. And because I didn't see you, but I walked by Maple Leaf Square because I walked down to the GO train. So I walked in. I think I watched the entire first period from Maple Leaf Square with my backpack on and everything, getting ready to go catch the next GO train. So I watched.
You must have been way at the back.
Yeah, because I walked down after class, and then I'm standing by myself. I'm just standing at the back with my backpack on, watching the first period, and then I go from so the first period ends, and I book it to the GO train, and I take the GO train home, and I get home. It's probably end of the second, middle second, somewhere in there, and then I watched the entire second and third and OT from my bedroom. And I remember texting a couple buddies when they went up 4-1, hey, we're going the second round, this is it, I can't believe this is happening. And I jinxed it, I believed that this team that we couldn't fathom doing anything, this JVR Kessel Kadri line that's just unbelievable for some reason. I thought they were going to do it. I believed in these guys. They were heroes, and they collapsed. I encourage anybody who's listening to this to go back to watch the highlights on YouTube. There's a video that was posted May 14th, 2013 that has 1.2 million views. And if you go and you watch the part with the Kadri goal, it's a half an hour video. They have the whole highlights. It's great. And if you go and you watch the part with the Kadri goal, I believe it's Jack Edwards who says at the time, that's it. That's the dagger. The Leafs have all but cleaned up this series. It'll take a monumental collapse for Boston to come back.
And it's the first and only 3-goal third period collapse in a Game 7 in NHL history.
And then it happens.